Hello, welcome to this awareness video for clinical staff all about peer support for perinatal mental health. This is delivered by Touchstone as part of the West Yorkshire Perinatal Mental Health Peer Supporter Alliance project. First, we'll just explain what peer support is and how it functions. Peer support is support given and received between people who share similar experiences and see each other as equals. It can be emotional support, practical or social. A peer supporter is someone who helps others by using their shared experiences to offer help, empathy, knowledge and hope in a way that empowers. Shared attributes of age, culture, ethnicity, etc. may sometimes also enhance the understanding and empathy towards each other. This is especially important within groups that already experience discrimination and exclusion. Peer support can be informal between friends or colleagues, or it can be semi-structured, such as within mutual aid or shared interest groups. Or peer support can be offered more formally by a trained and identifiable peer supporter who attends a group or a one-to-one for the express purpose of supporting others. Often, peer support happens in all these ways at once. The key characteristics of peer support are as follows. It is person-centred, non-judgmental. It involves listening and understanding and avoiding fixing problems or giving advice. It includes an open sharing of lived experiences. It's a relationship, not a consultation. And this relationship is between equals. Within peer support, people are together in their struggles and less isolated. And peer support empowers others to make their own choices about what they would like to do or change in their life. In this list, you can probably see where peer support shares similarities with clinical work and where it has stark differences. Underpinning the success of peer support is the trust and solidarity that emerges from building relationships on a basis of shared experience and equality. Let's now look at how peer support functions within the context of mental health. The traditional medical model sees mental health as a physical and chemical problem to be fixed using medical means. A more modern biopsychosocial model understands that there's more to mental health than brain physiology. There may be many things affecting someone's mental health, such as debt, discrimination, isolation or abuse. It could even be affected by how accessible their treatment options are. If we look just at the perinatal period, we can see a huge range of life changes occurring in just a short amount of time. And what is on your screen is by no means an exhaustive list. No wonder the perinatal period is a time when mental health is more at risk. Helping parents navigate these changes or introducing protective factors is likely to improve their mental health, but this cannot be done using a purely medical approach. For biopsychosocial problems, we also need biopsychosocial solutions. Peer support is one such option that can start to change the degree to which some of the social and psychological factors contribute towards poor mental health. So why should a clinician care about what's happening in the world of peer support? Well, the first reason is because it works. A 2020 gov.scot review concluded that quantitative evidence shows peer support can significantly reduce depressive symptoms for women experiencing postnatal depression. The following slides summarise more such findings. Pause the video to read the slides in full or follow the citations to find the original research. So now you feel confident that peer support works. Why should you be concerned with whether your patients and your community are accessing it or not. Surely it won't affect how people engage with their healthcare providers, will it? Well, actually it can. Peer support does increase access to clinical support. As clinicians, you're probably already aware of the barriers that stop people from approaching you about their mental health, or the barriers that mean that even those who do come forward to you for help are unable to access the treatment that you recommend. But your job's only to address that part of the problem that can be described in clinical terms. These other barriers and social factors aren't your area of expertise, and you probably don't have enough time to address them, even if you could. If you're looking for a way to remove or shrink some of these barriers, supporting and promoting and encouraging peer support might be an excellent place to start. As well as addressing some of the social and psychological factors that contribute to poor mental health itself, peer support also helps reduce some of the barriers people face when accessing help and treatment. This is Katie's story. This shows exactly how peer support can increase access to clinical support. I had a one-to-one session as I was nervous about going to a support group. This gave me the building blocks I needed to start to get proper help. It gave me explanations for why I was feeling the way I was, reassurance that it was okay to feel this way, the fact that my birth had been tough and it was understandable. Most importantly, help was there and I should take it. There was no need to continue the way I was. I went back to my GP and was prescribed antidepressants. I'm so glad that I did. I still have days I find extremely hard. The difference now is I know how to deal with it, how to turn it around. The support group, which I've attended nearly every week since the first meeting, have played such a huge role in helping me to overcome this. To be able to talk to other mums with similar feelings and stories and know you're not alone has been a breath of fresh air. At this point, you may feel encouraged to see peer support as useful, but you may also have some concerns. The following slide shows some common myths surrounding peer support. Let's look at these and unpick them. Myth 1. Peer support is an unsafe replacement for clinical care. If peer support were being encouraged as a replacement for clinical care, yes, it could become very unsafe for all involved. However, peer support isn't supposed to replace anything. It should be used as an enhancement to clinical care, an extra to exist alongside it. People who are willing and able to seek help from their doctors will not choose peer support instead. However, people who may be wary of clinical help may choose peer support as an alternative to getting no support at all. And, as we've already shown, this peer support may in fact encourage people to access clinical help who otherwise would not have done so. You can help increase the safety of peer support and peer supporters by making links with local peer support organisations or groups. Myth number 2. Peer support is just a cheap, free alternative to counselling. It is possible there is a commissioner somewhere who mistakenly thinks that, desperate to save money, they'd commission peer support as an alternative to counselling. But to do so would be greatly misunderstanding peer support's purpose. Peer supporters do not want the responsibility of being used as or seen as counsellors. They want to be peer supporters, and they want strong mental health services to which they can signpost. Counsellors and peer supporters do different things, so one cannot replace the other. Myth number 3. Peer support is one size fits all. The more that peer support is written into public health and NHS tenders, the more it is designed around a clinical or professional understanding of what works. So peer support is sometimes understood to be one thing that works in one specific way. However, peer support that has evolved from within communities shows us that it can flourish in a variety of ways. It can happen online. It can happen while taking part in outdoor activities. It can consist of deep emotional connection or be just the offer of practical help. Myth number 4. Peer support is just a way for services to save money by using volunteers instead of paid staff. This myth has a lot in common with myth 2. However, this one is based on the false idea that developing volunteers within the third sector or clinical services is a cheap option. In reality, well-run volunteer projects cost money and time to avoid burning out their volunteers. They also recognise that the role of volunteers in creating relationships of equality happens in a way that doesn't always occur with paid staff. This is a benefit far above and beyond being cost effective. Myth number 5. Peer support is damaging to the supporter's mental health. Due to most peer support roles being voluntary, should anyone feel that their mental health is declining due to offering peer support, they are always free to stop. However, most research suggests that peer supporters get benefits from their role. These benefits include those experienced by volunteers in general, alongside additional ones such as knowing they're not alone in their suffering, being able to access peer support environments for themselves, and turning a negative experience into a positive one. Additionally, it's false to assume that clinical workers are immune from being triggered when helping others with their mental health. Instead, a trauma-informed approach would see us assuming that at least some clinical colleagues have experienced similar things to peer supporters. Then we would set up systems to support all of our staff, paid clinical workers and voluntary peer supporters. This would benefit everybody. These final 2 slides summarise the advantages of peer support and what can happen without it. Peer support motivates people to contact health professionals, allowing for earlier intervention. It can be utilised as a preventative approach, reducing the stress on clinical services. It strengthens social factors that contribute to better mental health and is more appealing to those who are distrustful of the medical system or who face discrimination or exclusion. Peer support is also a really useful step down and a way back into community life after completing a course of therapy. It meets patients' need to be listened to and understood, which in turn allows them to take proper advantage of clinical appointments by being clearer with what they need. Peer support is also essential to any project that is invested in a trauma-informed approach. What would happen without peer support? In reality, mental health support would be accessible to fewer individuals. Those who would access their mental health support would be likely to be from more privileged backgrounds, which would widen the gap. Clinical services would become even more overrun due to a lack of preventative factors and social community methods of recovery. And the empathy and knowledge that exists within people with lived experience would remain an untapped resource. Thank you very much for listening to this video. If you know of any peer supporters or peer support groups that would benefit from linking up with other organisations or individuals who are involved in perinatal mental health peer support, please ask them to join the West Yorkshire Perinatal Mental Health Peer Supporter Alliance. The link to the Facebook group is below. Goodbye.